What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Check this out. I am on the beach in Almeria in Spain, and it's currently about 7 a.m. in the morning. I've just done a little bit of decompression work here on the beach, and it sparked some thoughts for me, and I wanted to come on and share them with you guys here. So up to now, we've been doing coffee movement chats, and I'm going to rebrand coffee movement chats just a little bit. And this series of videos from now forward is going to be called The Movement Perspective. A couple of years ago, I started a podcast called The Movement Perspective, and it's something that I haven't kept going. But the reason why I called it The Movement Perspective was because when I started changing my perspective on movement and my body, because this was back at the time when I was just after coming through my ACL surgery, and I was still in the midst of a 6-year spell of chronic pain. And when I started learning more about the human body, biomechanics, movement in general, and things you can do to move your body in such a way that it starts to get you back to your natural way of movement, the way that actually breaks you out of cycle. But when I started changing my perspective on that and learning new things, my whole lens that I viewed life through started to change also, because I started to see the possibilities. I started to change my perspective on how it is that I take action on my health in particular at that time. And movement was a huge thing for me because I was in pain for so long. I thought that this was the way, and I thought that it was someone else or some external thing that was going to change that for me. And it actually wasn't in the end. It was actually returning to myself. It was returning to the things that my body was missing. So the reason why I want to change this series now to be The Movement Perspective moving forward is because I hope that in at least one of these videos in the series, if not already, I can change your outlook on movement. I can give you that spark that you need to be able to get out of pain, to resolve that injury that just hasn't been going away. Because those chronic issues, they impact every part of your life. So I hope that I can give you your own movement perspective through these to change whatever aspect of your life it is that you want to change. And when I was on the beach here this morning and doing some decompression work, I had a couple of thoughts. And one of them is one which I want to talk to you about today, which is the two main causes that I see that lead to chronic pain for the majority of people. We have injury rates that are higher than ever. We have joint replacements happening. We have people who are suffering with non-specific lower back pain, for example. And when I was here moving on the beach doing my decompression work, I thought back to my own time when I was suffering with, hip pain, when I was picking up all these dislocated shoulders, tearing ACLs, and I couldn't figure out what it was at the time, but it was actually two key things that I boiled it down to, and they're the two things that I want to share now. So the two big things I think in the modern world that are causing chronic pain for people and are causing the rates of injury to skyrocket are, number one, the lifestyle, how we live, okay? Most of us sit and are sedentary all day long, and the conversation around, the buzzwords of sitting is the new smoking, it's true to a degree, but also it's completely different. But the whole point that is important to understand here is it's the amount of time we spend sitting, and realize that your body gets good at what you do. So if you spend time sitting all the time, then your body is going to adapt to that position because it adapts to what you expose it to. So for example, if we spend all day sitting and we're in this posture where we're hunched over, this is not the perfect example, but I'm hunched over, which shortens all my hip flexors and everything here at the front. It compresses the back of my hip. We start to get this rounding in the lumbar spine and this rounding in the thoracic, and then we get all kinds of curves happening. So then when we go from that sitting position and then we try to stand up, and if I take that into a standing position, I need to be able to stand upright. So that's going to do weird things to me in order to stand. And it fundamentally changes, number one, our posture. It changes our tissue quality, and it changes how our skeleton actually aligns. And if we're adopting a skeleton to a sitting position, but how we move through the world and how we do all the things that we love to do, be that training, hiking, running, whatever activities you love to do, that is not specific to sitting. Sitting is a very, very different position. So when you ask your skeleton to go from this sedentary position where we don't have blood flow, we don't have nutrients moving through the system, we don't have any conscious muscle and mind connection, then when you go to stand up and go to the gym after sitting for 8 hours, you feel like absolute crap. And you feel like you are like a steel rod that you can't move. And this is a huge issue. For me, I see the correlation of this. I felt the correlation of this, and I still do to this day. If I sit all day and I go to the gym, I know I'll feel worse. When I look back at why was it that my body started to deteriorate so much, I realized when I got my first job, I spent so much time sitting because my job was to drive. My job was a service engineer, and so I drove around the whole country. I could spend 5-6 hours a day driving, and there's no way to get a standing desk when you drive. You know, there's no way to add in this extra movement because you need to actually put in the hours to get from A to B where you're going. So I seen a huge correlation between the amount of time I was spending sitting and not necessarily just sitting, but being sedentary, and how much pain I was experiencing and how much injuries were occurring for me on a regular basis. And one of the big things I attribute to now me being pain-free is not just the training I do and the way I've learned to move my body and how I've adapted my tissues, but I spend much less time sitting. And that's because I've taken ownership over the fact that I know if I sit, I'm gonna feel like shit. And I know that my musculoskeletal health is gonna suffer. So part of the reason why I sought to start my own business, to have that freedom, is because I don't need to sit now for any amount of time unless I choose to sit for that time, but I understand the consequences. So that was one example of taking back control. But sitting and being sedentary is huge. And again, to kind of summarize that, it's from a postural perspective, it fundamentally changes our skeleton. It changes our length tension relationships in our muscles. And a lot of the postural deficiencies that we see nowadays, like sway back postures, we have like anterior pelvic tilts, people with lower back pain, hip flexor pain, people having to get hip replacements. These are all related to a sedentary lifestyle because we don't have input of movement into the system. But that also means then that we don't have nutrients, we don't have blood flow flowing throughout our body. Movement is life, and sedentary behavior and spending a lot of time being sedentary is the opposite of movement, which is the opposite of living. It's the opposite of life. We're designed to move. So that's number one. Second thing is related to this, but also it's slightly different. It's how we train. So if you think of, if you're sitting for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then at the weekends you're still, you know, it doesn't look much better, then you want to go and lift heavy weights in the gym, you're starting to layer on neural input, neural drive, layering strength on top of a faulty foundation. It's like me trying to build a castle here on this beach, on this sand, okay? It probably won't work so well in the long run because the foundations are not strong. Your body is set up and designed to move in specific ways, okay? I believe that we have this inherent blueprint of movement, meaning our body has a default optimal way of moving. And that optimal way represents efficiency, it represents effortlessness, and it also represents pain-free, because nature doesn't do things suboptimally, okay? If we have a blueprint for movement, the closer we can be to that blueprint, then the less likely we are to have musculoskeletal issues, the less likely we are to have chronic pain, the less likely we are to suffer recurrent injuries and joint replacements and surgeries. When we layer suboptimal training, meaning that we train in a way that doesn't respect our bodies and how it was designed to move, it doesn't train the movement patterns to bring us back closer to that blueprint, then all the time we're just layering on, we're solidifying more of those faulty patterns and those faulty postures that we've developed from our sedentary lifestyles, for example. So our body's never really getting that input of quality natural movement, reciprocating contralateral movement that is designed to move us throughout the world. And these are the two big issues I see, because when I would go to the gym after sitting all day and work, I would try to do like a heavy back squat, or I would try to do some kind of heavy lift. It's not to play bad on back squats and deadlifts, but some kind of heavy lift where it required a lot of push and a lot of integrating a lot of my body. You know, I'd blow my back out, or something would lock up in my shoulder. My hip flexors would start hurting. And it was because it didn't respect how you were naturally designed to move. And it didn't seek to restore the qualities that I was losing from my sedentary lifestyle. So it was just layering things on, okay, all these bad layers. And your body loses its fluidity. It loses its quality of tissue in the areas where it needs it. A really simple example of this is I've done hundreds of assessments, one-to-one assessments for clients and potential clients. And the one big thing I see almost exclusively in all of those is people who can't access their back chain for movement. They can't access their glutes, their lats, or their hamstrings. And these are three big muscles on our back chain that are designed to drive us forward. So many people are stuck in the front chain dominant posture, which is their pelvis has shifted forward in space and their rib cage is drifted back. So now we become very dominant down through this front chain. So when we try squat, it becomes a very front chain dominant squat. If we need to get down deeper, instead of actually shifting back into our hips, we'll shift forward and then we arch our back, but our hips never really shift back. We're not taking the load in here, it's been taken into the spine. And that's just one example of many of how this inability to access the muscles that we need and develop that connection with the muscles that we need, how that just starts to wreak havoc quite quickly. And then you carry that into your day, into every movement you do, and we end up just slamming a load of force into one area and we start to get overload in one area, and the muscles that are actually designed to take that can't do their job anymore. I need to pull myself back now. Two main things that cause chronic pain, in my opinion, and if you can clean up these two things, you will go a long way to being pain-free for the rest of your life. Number one is your sedentary lifestyle. Number two is your training program and how you move your body throughout the day. But let's focus just on the training program here. These are the two things. So training program is the one thing that people will come to me for, and it's the one thing that they know that I can give them. But another aspect that we don't talk about very much on the Ancestral Athlete page, which this video is actually part of that process of sharing more, is the lifestyle. And one thing that we do with people is we address their lifestyle. If you're sitting for 8 hours a day and you're following a program to try and help you move better, you will still see some results, but they're going to be hampered, particularly in the long run, if you don't change something about your behavior, because fundamentally the issues you're experiencing are being caused at the root by your lifestyle behaviors, and then your training is just making that much worse. So the two areas that you need to address are, number one, your lifestyle, number two, your training and how you train. Are you respecting natural biomechanics? Are you respecting the fact that your body has lost abilities and it needs to get those back before it can really start to thrive and really get out of pain and start to move in an efficient way? So a couple of quick things that you can do to actually help make that happen. Number one, when it comes to lifestyle, seek ways that you can sit less, because you probably sit much more than you think. Most people underestimate how much they sit throughout the day, and you are under no obligation to sit. Most people think like, oh, I have to sit for my job, I have to sit for this, I have to sit for that, but we don't have to sit as much as we think. Nobody is legally obliged to tell you that you have to sit. So seek ways that you can input something like a standing desk, but you need to go beyond that, because standing for 8 hours is also sedentary behavior. So the real lesson here is you need to move as much as possible throughout the day. So every hour, at least, start every hour, take a movement break. It can be get on the floor, do some decompression work. We've got lots of decompression routines that take less than 10 minutes here on the channel. So check those out and input one of those into your every hour into your day as a start. It's a really simple thing that you can do. Number two is your training program. If you're taking time to train and go to the gym, focus on improving your musculoskeletal health, how your body moves, because ultimately we all want to go to the gym and get a pump and feel like we're coming out of there absolutely smashed, that you know, we're pumping sweat, our heart rate is through the roof, and we've got a real workout. But at what cost? Okay, look at this in the long run. Do you want to still be able to do that in 5 and 10 years time? Do you want to be able to play with your kids when they get a little bit older? Ask these questions, and if that is a priority, then seek to optimize how your body moves first, and then you can start enjoying those things more. The CrossFits, the Hyroxes, all those things where you feel like you can just go in and smash your body. But believe me, it's so much more enjoyable when you don't have to suffer through pain. And all it requires is that you take a little bit of time, follow the structure approach to to reclaim your natural movement patterns, start to decompress your body, start to rebalance any asymmetries that you have, start to restore your ability to access natural reciprocating movement mechanics. Start to layer on strength on top of that, strengthen your connective tissues, your fascia, integrate your system, then go and do the things that you love to do, because that's what's going to bring more enjoyment, and that's what's going to allow you to do that for longer. There are just some couple of thoughts that I've had this morning on the beach here moving, and like I said, this is going to be called the movement perspective moving forward. I hope that at least one of these episodes resonates with you. I hope that I don't go off on too many tangents on these, because these are just letting my thoughts flow. It's still the same principles as Coffee Movement Chats, but I want to open up the conversation a little bit more. I don't have a coffee here on the beach, so technically I can't continue the Coffee Movement Chat, but the thoughts come all the time, so I want to be able to share those. So this is episode 4 of the movement perspective. This is about the 2 main causes of musculoskeletal pain, chronic pain that I see, and I think it's as simple as that. It's not always easy to resolve these things and find solutions, but the solutions are there, and it is simple. It just requires that we bring some awareness and some intent to what we do in our lives and what we do in our training. So I'm going to leave it at that, finish with a little bit of wisdom. I'm going to go take a dip now in the ocean. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the sunrise here in Almeria, and then I'm going to do a little bit of training. But got my decompression work done this morning, feel good, blood is pumping through the body, you feel alive. And moral of the story is get moving more, but start focusing on quality movement. Start restoring your body, recoding your body, build those foundations for natural pain-free movement. Get back to source and things are going to be good, trust me. All right, that's it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this below. Any other topics you actually would like to maybe hear I can go take a walk, give me a topic, and let's try change some perspectives here. So drop a comment below, let me know what you'd like to see next, and other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.